All right, I think we're recording now.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you for coming to the October Communications Committee meeting. If I'll go ahead and start, or we usually say identify the volunteers for the committee that are present. So Lindsay Kuhn. Karen, you want to introduce yourself?
Karen McKisson.
Yeah.
Ollie Snodgrass.
Steve Eisenbrown.
Tom Need.
Tom Need. Wonderful. And then we don't have anybody on right now, it sounds like, but
Let
if
me double check. I don't think so.
somebody jumps
No.
on,
No one's joined yet.
okay. So we'll ask them to identify themselves if they do. So starting with items from our last meeting, I reached out to Adam. I wasn't sure if he was going to be here tonight to see if he could update us on how far they've gotten with creating those department emails. So I unfortunately don't have an update for everybody in terms as if our communications at Harlem Township is active. Is anybody that participates in another committee? Steve, Tom, do you
Yeah.
guys know about the department emails? And
Ones for the BZA are active
okay,
and operational.
And then the Heritage Group has their own,
yeah, okay.
so I don't know.
And the zoning, I think, is up, is in effect.
So that makes me think that communications is ready to go, which is positive news. I don't see why it wouldn't be, because that is kind of hinging on other small things is that email. So first thing that's hinging on is our constant contact account. So what we'll want to do is, as soon as I hear back and confirm that it's ready, I was going to meet with Lisa Hersey here briefly, who has control of constant contact since she set up the payment method. And then what she'll do is she'll add our communications email. And then we'll be ready to send via that. So that'll be great because we're about ready to send their newsletter. And then, so the next steps after meeting with Lisa, or Ashley could probably help me as well, is that once we're in, we'll upload the resident email list that Molly has provided. And then Molly can send that final email that you've drafted from that SBC email saying we're going to switch over.
Yeah, that's still the plan.
Yeah.
So once you give me the green light that everything is kind of like ready to go, I'll send a final email, kind of like the old way. So
Yes.
we're on the list. Get something from that old account, and then they can make sure to add a new one to their favorites or their contacts, so they don't get sent to spam. Because that happened to a few people. A few
Of
people
course.
realized that the emails were going to spam. So it's like, okay, add this to your contacts. So
Right. Exactly. So I think that's a great idea. And the last thing will then be to just use constant contact without getting into the weeds of it. Like I can just create like a subscribe button and then we'll add that to the township website. So Ashley will be our point of contact for that. And she's on vacation for a couple days, but like by Monday, I anticipate being able to add that. Does anybody have any questions about constant contact? Don't mean to keep barreling through here.
Very excited about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me
I am
as
too.
well. Me as well. So that leads into our other current project, which is really like on the 1 yard line. It's ready to go, is the township newsletter. So Lisa has paid or has generated a check for the postage for because for those of you that don't know, you have to pay for the postage ahead of time before the printer will print the newsletters. And we're just waiting on the trustees to finalize this letter that they would like to send to the township, which I've talked to the three of them via email and they said that they're working on it. They're just want to make sure they all have a chance to review it. And that'll just be an easy thing to paste in once we're ready to go. Once that is done, then I guess just going through, reminding everybody what our next steps will be when the newsletter has been reviewed and is ready to be sent to print. We will then work with Ashley, add the PDF to the website, and then the goal is that'll be our first constant contact email is, hey, everybody, here's the next newsletter. So I anticipate this is all going to come together very quickly over the next few days, just waiting for the trustees and everything to finish their letter. And I did have to make a slight adjustment to some information that was sent to us for the newsletter, just because a date is about to pass soon. There was the fire department sent several events, and one of those dates will be passed by a couple days by the time this hits mailboxes. So I just deleted that. No big deal.
That was gonna be one of my questions. Was there anything that needed like tweaked or edited? Because by the time it's mailed, it will be in the past. So it sounds like you're on top of it.
Yep, the fire department thing will definitely be passed. And actually, I do have a question. Where there was a trustee meeting regarding the TIF district that was described in the newsletter by the Economic Development Committee. I think that I'm gonna have to ask them, or actually, Molly, you had reached out to them originally. Would you mind following up with them and asking if they'd like to make any slight changes to that, since things seem to have progressed
Mhm.
since they sent that in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can certainly do that.
Okay.
Follow up if we just need to change a was to an is, or you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
If the action was already taken, then we can just update those couple of.
Yeah, you should close that out, because I mean, that was the good news.
Yeah.
Last week it's passed,
Yeah.
so. It's
Perfect.
done.
So they have a few days to send just a quick tweaked version of that.
Probably what I'll do is just suggest an updated version and say, hey, are you good with this? Cause.
That's a good
That
idea.
way they could just say, yes.
Mhm.
this is-
Yeah. That's wonderful.
I'll
Well,
take-
that's
I'll take a
nice.
look at that, blurb, and propose something to have them green light as far as like an update goes.
Okay.
Make sure it's current.
That's perfect. Hey, I almost see like that's a silver lining, because now we can talk about something that's happened and passed versus we would have sent it out and then it would have immediately been changed. So it's great. That'll be nice and current. So our last bit of kind of old business versus, business that's kind of in the works would be that it is still the intention for us as the communications committee to propose a schedule of social media posts, but the big thing is we need to clean up duplicate pages so that way everybody's following the correct pages. I cannot do that. That's one of those things that's hinging on that communications email. So just another thing that as soon as we get that, we should be able to get some good progress. And all that will be is meeting with Ashley, who currently has access to the pages, in order to add our communications email. And then I can follow the steps to get those duplicate pages cleaned up. So almost there as well. So that's exciting.
That is good, cause it's like. It is very confusing when there's the duplicate pages and someone doesn't realize that and they follow one, not the other. The other one is the one they should be following. It's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we'll be able to have all that cleaned up this month as long as that communications email is active and ready to roll. So that is our kind of things in the works, old business. Does anybody have any questions or comments on any of that right now?
Not that it's super technical, but like
Mhm.
with the two Facebook pages, they're
Mhm.
both owned by the one same account. Do you know?
And the trustee one?
No, so there's two ones that are called Harlem Township Government.
Yes.
Are they both managed by the Harlem Township fake person?
That is what I'm assuming.
That's what I got from working with
Mm-hmm.
Kimber, because I questioned it.
Okay.
They had to set up two Facebooks.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the bylaws, it tells them they have to have so many sites, like mailing, like a total of 5 or something, that everyone knows where to go to check it. So they put it out there twice, so they can
Oh.
say it's there. It's two
Oh,
separate one, but it's separate, but they do, because you can't delete the people from here to move or here, but they have to have them separate, because there is one person who checks both of them. And say you're not going, and the mail and the email.
That seems really.
that's interesting.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
so there's a bylaw somewhere.
That's
Well,
that
good new
says-
information.
So then maybe we need to clear that up with like.
Yeah.
IDs first. If they have some bylaw that says you need to post it in 5 places and we're using website, Facebook 1, Facebook 2, Facebook 3.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
that's the understanding I got from her, because I was thinking, oh,
Okay.
why do we need this?
Yeah.
okay,
So there's the Harlem Township government page.
Yes.
And there just
Right.
happens to be 2 of those for some reason,
There
which
are
is what,
two.
Named the same.
yeah,
named
they're
the same.
When we
Mhm.
look at the links, one of them is like facebook.com/Harlem admin and the other one's facebook.com/admin Harlem.
It is because they had to have,
How would you know that?
You wouldn't know
it went
So it's-
unless you
yeah.
join
It's
both of them.
It's not obvious unless you follow both of them, which I
Right.
do happen to.
I mean, I did too, and that's.
I can't even find the other one.
It's there, because,
it's very subtly different, because you'll notice that like one has like,
Picture.
yeah.
picture, and they have maybe, let's say, 600 people,
Mhm.
and the other one has 1,000, you know.
Yeah.
it's
So,
it's
or like
obvious.
300 and 800. Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying, it's just obvious.
Yeah.
It's the only reason why, because in their bylaws, they have to have so many out there, and this particular person will look at the website Facebook,
That's new
both of them,
information.
the mail and email,
Okay.
so.
Okay, well, maybe we need to take that up with the trustees
Yep.
then, if that bylaw can be changed or what, because
Yep.
that is very. That is not conducive to.
Yeah.
effective communication.
And the ownership
have
of
two.
them is the same?
That is what it
Yes.
appears, is that,
government.
and
Who's the admin for it?
it would have been like
Yeah.
admin at Harlem. Yeah.
The trustees,
Mhm.
she is.
Yeah.
So it's Lisa then.
No,
Not-
Lisa.
I'm-
Ashley now.
Ashley.
Mhm.
Ashley,
I have no idea how easy or hard it would be to change a bylaw, but can it just be 3 places instead of
Sure.
5 places, and then we could clear this up?
well, right,
Yeah.
it's just that, they have to go through, and maybe get it approved,
Mhm.
go through and change their bylaws, have them rewritten that paragraph, basically.
Okay,
Have to go through the attorney and do it, so.
oh my goodness, okay.
Well, and there's certainly other options as well. So for example, if that's hard to change, rather than having duplicate Facebook pages that's causing confusion, why don't we get another social network involved, a small social network, and they can just say they've posted it
Yeah,
on another social
that's
network
true.
as well,
Like have like a-
like the next door or something like that. Twitter,
hard to
to me, this
Yeah, it is.
I certainly need to talk to them, but to me that like that 5th place sounds a little bit like a formality, so needs
It
to be
is.
broadcasted
Well,
somewhere.
yeah, Once you get to the bottom
Yeah.
of that, rather than,
That's-
because starting up another stream is just another problem.
Yeah,
Correct.
We don't need another.
it would be
stream.
easier if they could just change the rule.
Yeah, just like, I'm gonna give an
Let's
example.
find out what it really is.
Yeah.
I would double check that, but that's the understanding, because I questioned
Well,
it,
that's-
year and a half ago or something.
That's interesting, and that's good information.
Yes,
Thank you for
that.
telling us.
I assumed it was unintentional and it was just an
No.
accidental, oh, they set one up but then forgot about it and then set another one
No,
up.
Yeah.
no, they did, because there was one that I think, is Harlem Communications, it's done by, Vicky's daughter, Jennifer.
No, that's township. That's this one.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
That's the Harlem Township Community.
But that's
Someone-
not affiliated with the.
No, but-
township
Yeah.
administration.
No, but I'm just saying that you go out there and look at Harlem and you got the Heritage Group. And then the last 3 months or so, in the last of July and August, someone set up one called the Harlem Food Truck or Farmers Market Food Truck. And I don't know who set that up.
Mm,
And we always did it as our own Heritage Group because that's not.
mhm.
But someone set up a whole fun, Facebook page.
I wonder if we can find out, I mean, it usually says who the page admins are or whatever.
I couldn't tell. That's the reason I tried to look for it.
Alright,
Maybe you have better luck than I do.
All right, so I've got a to-do here for sure, which to get to the bottom of that, because that obviously would create a slight wrench in our plan of cleaning that up. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
Well,
where are the bylaws even documented?
there's got to be at least a printed copy here for sure, but I don't know if they're on the website.
I don't know either. That's,
Mm-hmm.
might be nice to put them on the website if they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I would think they would have to, because if someone already knows the bylaws already and they know and they check that, if she does not see it, she calls and complains. That's my understanding. So I don't know who it is or what it,
Well,
I mean, if they don't match,
or if they don't see it in all 5 places. She verifies all 5 places if some news going out.
a resident
A
does.
resident.
oh, I
is-
can
as
guess who
residents.
that is.
What'd you say was the name of the food truck group?
It was Farmers Market and Food Truck, Harlem. Maybe it's gone now, but it was there. Cause I got it on Facebook and I
Mm-hmm.
said, who's putting this out?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I couldn't figure it out. I was trying to figure out how.
I'll look for it
Yeah.
more later.
Okay, cause I tried to even on my phone, but I thought maybe I'm limited on the phone, so with my
Right.
Yeah.
desktop and.
Okay, so then moving on to new business, and this was something that we said we tabled at our last meeting so we could get through the newsletter, talk about it thoroughly at this meeting. So this will be great because we didn't have very much time at our last meeting. So our next new thing to decide is that what will our official cadence of emails be through our new email platform so that people can begin to expect things we have a formula, we have updates at a certain time that we give, that kind of stuff. Because I think that's particularly important when we are trying to establish official means of communication, that we have a schedule that people can expect it to follow. So in thinking about what I'd like us to brainstorm here is what schedule is information being put out by all the different pieces that are putting out information. So for example, we know for at least we'll have one newsletter email quarterly. But then in turn, we could monthly update when the next trustee meeting is. That's another example. Are there other events that we could make sure we could include in that? So this is kind of the discussion I want to have. Does that make sense? So what other avenues of communication are being put out there throughout the month from our different committees and organizations that we need to think about in terms of how often we send emails?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of committees that are sending emails externally, because they don't have the structure to do that.
Mhm.
Yes, the Heritage Group does. We're in constant contact.
Right, Heritage, but that's not, they're
We
technically
would,
affiliated.
we
with
would
the
keep,
Heritage.
we would
Right.
keep Heritage sending their own emails for
Correct.
sure.
Because that's not a township
Right.
activity.
Correct.
It might, I think
That's
it's
governmentally,
Yeah.
not governmentally, yeah,
right.
so
So
I think. I
monthly.
would think we would wanna start with monthly, I don't wanna necessarily overcommit off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What do you see as the kind of regular content of those communications? Because let's think about first of all, what's going on now. You know, there are monthly meetings taking place of,
Varies.
trustees,
Mhm.
BZA, zoning, and other, or I guess maybe Parks and Rec.
Mm-hmm.
And they are all Zooming. They
Mm-hmm.
are all recorded.
Mhm.
They are all available for people to watch. And if anything, part of our early task here is just educating people that that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so, you can go tune in either live or go back and watch it if you're interested in any of those activities. I don't think the newsletter needs to be the repeater of, other than exceptional kind of things maybe happening
Yeah.
on that monthly basis. I mean, that's
Mhm.
just my opinion. I mean,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
because you're just sort of spewing back again what's out there already.
Mhm.
And we have to a degree, teach our residents to go pull for information, not to expect everything to get pushed to them,
Mhm.
right? I mean,
yeah, that's a fair
Mhm.
point, I think maybe we need to just kind of repeatedly put out there, here's the link to the website, here's the link to the YouTube page where all these
Mhm.
videos are.
Mhm.
And maybe we just start out with very basic um, summary of past meetings and dates of future meetings and put all the links.
because there are minutes as well.
Yep.
Published. If you had,
Always be
if
at
the
the
last thing
next.
in the newsletter was, let's just call it the resource section. And the resource section was comprised of the committee email address for the chairman, the YouTube site for the
Mhm.
Zooms, and the connect link for the minutes,
Yeah, like
Mhm.
right?
websites
So
like
each
that.
one has kind of that information there, and then, go on to the next one
Mm-hmm.
to sort of make it easy for people then to go pull information as they are interested.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, because otherwise you're just going to be asking people to write reports.
Yeah.
If you ask Keith, to write the summary report for the BZA.
Yeah.
he's gonna go, "Oh."
That's a lot every month.
yeah, I
Mhm.
agree, I think maybe
Because
that.
the minutes basically have everything in it
Yeah.
that we do. Plus then you could go watch the Zoom
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted the finer points.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the, summaries or like major, like updates on actual topics can be reserved for the quarterly, printed newsletter. If we continue to do quarterly, and once a quarter is probably about the most that anyone's gonna wanna, write up a blurb about, what they've been doing. Uh,
Quarterly is a pretty good cadence
Yeah.
compared to where we are right now.
yeah,
Mhm.
It is a big improvement, absolutely.
And then you can use constant contact for the, oh, hey, here, in between, we'd like to report. For example, I think it would have been okay just to send a blurb out to, say congratulations to the trustees and to the business development side for approval of the TIF.
Right.
Right? Because that would be timely and it would be because one of the complaints I've heard, and it was during the SPC and then after the SPC, is, things happen and we don't know about them.
Hmm.
Well, so if something actually happens, rather than general course of business
Mhm.
of a meeting, because a lot of these meetings are pretty boring.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot going on, except for the zoning commission.
Oh, yeah, right.
Then, maybe
We
it's,
draw a crowd.
it's, either they're gonna get this thing quarterly or on an exception basis.
Mhm.
When somebody, whether a trustee contacts you, or somebody else brings something forward and says, hey, I think this is of enough importance that we ought to send out a quick constant contact. And it could be a single topic
yeah,
thing.
that's true. So maybe we keep it. If we have something major to highlight, we can, send out a one-off, or honestly, maybe we just use it to send out educational type content. Like,
Yeah.
more information on what is a TIF and some official,
Details on it.
respectable sources that you can, read up on it. Or what is, to even the basics of like, what is zoning? I know we had that zoning 101 article that's going out in the newsletter, but it's like the more we can repeat some of these very basic fundamental educational topics of township structure and township government and.
Yeah, well, staying with the TIF idea, I mean, and maybe, well, you can do that now as a byproduct of the next newsletter, but
Yeah.
we could have sent one out and then attached to it kind of all the links that are already on our website coming out of the SPC and other areas on, well, what is a TIF? How does this
Mhm.
work? Kind of other resources for further education of people, as you say,
Yeah.
are trying to get smarter about this stuff.
It seems like it would be perfectly reasonable if we alluded to, when we put out the newsletter email that'll come out soon, that we say, in our, soon we'll provide a further resource about what is a TIF. Like we could do a follow-up a week later, 2 weeks later, something like that. That could be our first like one-off exceptional
Right.
email.
Another
Yeah.
thing we could do is really just try to source input from the community of what do you want to see in
Yeah.
the monthly email? Give them, put out a quick,
Give them
form or
input.
something and give them a couple options. Like,
Mhm.
educational content, event highlights,
Mhm.
whatever. So we can maybe try to find out like what's the most important for people. Like, what do you want to see in our email communications? Do you want to see meeting dates in email, or are you fine looking at that on the website, right?
It's my understanding from what Karen was describing that there is a certain element of you have to be putting out when these meetings are. It sounds to me like we're describing this kind of mix, and maybe it could be the same layout each time of a short, here's the meetings coming up, here's the links to the recaps of the last ones, and then some sort of last section that's educational in some way. So if there is a specific topic that is relevant, that's your educational topic for that month. If there's no educational topics, you could do things like, what do you guys want to hear? Polls and things like that.
Right.
So that would be kind of like the regular cadence. At least once a month, you'd know what meetings are coming up. You'd get links to the past meetings, and then you'd get an educational topic or a poll or something like that.
And at that point, it's not much different than the homepage of the internet site, which has got all of the
Mhm.
calendar activities on it.
Right,
Mhm.
but a lot of people
But-
just don't go into that, or.
But they need to, and
Yes, they do.
that's the point. They need to get trained that is their source.
Sometimes people who look at it, you gotta understand a little bit more about how to get into the
Yeah.
calendar, because that was a question
Or maybe an educational topic can be.
Did
how
you
to
know
find
that?
Events on our town.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here's how you
Yeah.
do this, because I've known it, knew it, but I forget it, because I don't go in there that often.
Mhm.
But now I know, and I'm not gonna forget it
Yep.
last time, so.
So even that can be little educational things we do is like certain,
Yeah.
like, you know, certain things to highlight on our township website. Here's
Yeah.
where to find this, here's where to navigate. the calendar.
Exactly.
The public notices on the township website, like how to, you know, look for things there.
Mm-hmm.
I always, you know, people would make comments about how they didn't know about certain meetings or whatever, and I'm like, well, it's in the public notices on the website. It's just kind of like, I likened it to think of that as like being able to get the Delaware Gazette without actually subscribing to the Delaware Gazette. right?
Sure, right.
Because the township puts all the public notices right online on the website, and they're all the ones that they're like, you know, required to put in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like, if you don't want to, if you don't subscribe to the Delaware Gazette, you don't need to, you just check our website and there's all the public notices.
Yeah.
So am I getting that the quarterly will be mailed
It will continue to be mailed, yes.
and mailed to everybody or mailed to those who don't have email?
For the time being, everybody,
Mhm.
until unless we determine that we can scale back and only mail it to the ones that are not on our email list.
So the quarterly is paper
Yep.
Yes.
mailed,
Mm-hmm.
and the monthly or actually whatever, you know, just ad hoc, those are only going out by email.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's what we are circling and coming to the conclusion here. Maybe monthly is a great place to start. And then, but you'd always have an opportunity for one-offs when there's something important. Like for example, Parks, at the last trustee meeting asked me, like, if I have something interesting for people to know about the park, like, can I send you guys information and you could, you know, send a one-off email? And I said, I don't see why not. So it sounds like there'll be plenty of opportunities for one-off emails. And then our kind of regular, this is what's coming up, this is what happened, educational, that could be like about once a month at the most.
Mhm.
I like it.
Just a tiny blurb,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
It's also a reminder
Yeah.
to them to look, if they
Mm-hmm.
get an email.
'Cause you don't want to make them too long, because then people scroll and you know, kind of gets overwhelming a little bit.
Yeah, again, if anything, give them short and sweet, but give them the link to
The
lead them
links,
to what they
yeah.
should be looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the training process.
All right.
Yeah, and I am just for research on all the, you know, give communities around us to try to find out how different ones do it. Like I subscribe to Genoa's newsletter, I subscribe to Kingston Townships, I subscribe to Westerville's and one other one that I don't remember which, but like I subscribe to several other communities like newsletters or email subscription lists.
Yeah.
To see what they're doing, and I know I talked about a couple of them in the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But that's exactly what some of them do, the better ones. They have little tiny intros to, hey, here's an article and click this link.
Thought
to-"
starters.
Yeah.
Send them to then.
Yeah.
It makes somebody want to click.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what that's gonna be. I want to click. Yeah.
So I think
I
that's
like
our
it. I like it.
ultimate goal.
Does anybody have any other thoughts on that at the moment or?
Well, that was what, A.1?
Yes.
What- And then about the second one, the question you posed, do we
It's
need trustee approval?
Yep, so that will be the next step is understanding if they need to approve any sort of cadence that we are sending, because we're saying this is official township communication. So we're essentially doing it on behalf of the
The trustees.
trustees.
Right.
So I'm gonna assume we need them to approve that.
But the
Uh,
question then would be,
I
do
would
they need to approve
vote.
every single one off that we
Right,
send? Or do they just
exactly.
need to kind of give it a
Yeah.
blanket author?
Yeah,
My-
if they give us a blanket, and then if knowing what our contents, telling them, here's what we want to do, is this okay? And you
Mhm.
still need approval every time, or can you make it one?
I would turn it a little around them and if they're okay with this, and I would say, here's the schedule, and we can give them a schedule looking out months
Yep,
of when we intend to publish, right?
yeah,
And then back up from that, whatever, a week. So if you're gonna publish on the last Friday of a month, looking into the new month, then the third Friday of that last month, you're gonna send them your planned publication,
Right.
right? And with the knowledge that next Friday, we're hitting the go button
Mm-hmm.
unless I hear from you,
Right.
right? Don't make it, we're waiting to hear your approval.
Yeah.
You'll never get it, all right?
And yeah.
Right? So I mean, put the onus on them
Like, and make
to
him
be engaged.
Yeah.
say a certain time that you had to have it, let's say by noon on Friday,
Yeah.
because at 5 o'clock, this is.
It's going out. That's going out.
Right.
Yeah,
Is-
because you can set on contact time.
The schedule, yeah.
Schedule.
Is Adam officially the liaison to this group?
Yes.
I mean, and I guess maybe we should, say to Adam, I mean, this is the process that we're proposing.
Mm-hmm.
And, we need your help in making sure the other two guys understand this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're not gonna chase them down looking for their approval prior to publishing.
Yeah. I can foresee a situation where I write this down and I give this to them and they say, yep, we're gonna vote on it as trustees. The official rule is that, just exactly like you described, that we're empowering the communications committee to put out official emails for the township, and they will be doing this, planning ahead, but if they do not get word, it will still go out. Like I can see,
Well, and I think if
Yeah.
when you put that forward, give them an example of a typical monthly email.
Right.
Kind of what are the headers gonna be?
right.
Doesn't have to be the content, but it's gonna be, looking ahead, what's coming, topic, fill in the blank.
Yep.
And then resources or something, section.
Yep.
And then say, here's how it's expected to go. And so probably the thing, Mr. Trustee, you need to do is read the content part. Because the rest of it's just schedule that's
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
exists.
Exactly.
Places in the resource stuff is just the
Mhm.
resource stuff.
Right.
But don't get caught in that do loop of approval.
Right. I think that that's the only way that it would work. And it makes sense because the other committees are empowered to make their,
Right.
do what they need to do.
Right.
Yeah. That's probably the way it's going to shake out. So I'll send an email and see if we need to get that added to the next trustee meeting agenda.
Yeah, it's couple weeks out.
Yeah, a
Would you
couple
be
weeks
able to
out.
Put together like a simple email template and, because I know constant contact kind of works off templates, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it sure does. I don't see why not. As long as I can get in there, I think it would be very simple to do. As long as I can get in there, get our communications
Yeah,
email
you can
added
get
in there.
But
Yeah,
just remember that, I think the next meeting for the trustees.
is
next
in, not
Wednesday.
next week, but the week after. Yeah,
If you can
Right.
get it by then, if you can't, you have to wait until.
we have to wait till the next one, yeah. So that'll just be me getting with Lisa, which I've got an email to her, just waiting for her to respond back to me, so.
I mean, even if
Sure.
it does have to wait till the next one, like this would be probably a great thing to kick off at like the beginning of,
The year.
25.
Sure.
So,
But the other thing with, if these are gonna be official communications,
Mm-hmm,
and if they're not all going out by mail, that's gonna be a problem. Because people will say, you're sending out something official from the township and I never got it because I'm not online and I'm not on social media. So what I would say is, don't stop doing the monthly or as necessary emails. But anything of importance, anything of more than just news value, but anything that's officially from the trustees has got to be repeated in
and all the other
in the
places.
written.
Oh, yeah, I think so. This is not. meant to-
Agreed.
Well,
Agreed.
but you would say in the quarterly update,
In the-
not as
right.
a one-off.
Yeah,
In the quarterly.
Right.
The
update.
quarterly
That's
should.
gotta pick up everything that's official.
Which.
Even though it might be after the fact by the time that comes out.
Yeah,
At least
It's
they-
all in one.
at least they've been told.
Oh, so you
Yeah.
know.
But
which
I
ones.
agree with that.
Yes, I know, right now, I know which addresses have emails.
So, in a sense, can we change that and just have another file, just the ones that have to be mailed?
Soon we can, yes.
Yeah, that was kind of what I think.
Tom is trying to get, okay,
Yeah.
it's taken and I break that down differently.
I mean, our goal a year from now, if not sooner, is that we're only mailing to people that absolutely say, I need to have it by
I need to
mail.
have by mail.
Right, because they don't do computer.
Because yeah, and there's a lot of people that don't.
I have a question, Lindsay. In Constant Contact,
Mhm.
does it really like only keep track of like emails, or can people input like their address and we have, does it keep like a database of like emails associated with an address?
It's my understanding that that would have to be up to the subscriber. So as a subscriber, you would have like a profile and you could add in that extra information. But that's something that they would have to do. They would have to update their profile, which that's just information stored in Constant Contact.
Because one thing with me manually keeping track of our email list in Excel, I was able to, associate an email with an address. But
Mm-hmm.
once we have Constant Contact and people are subscribing online,
Mm-hmm.
like we're not gonna necessarily know which address that email goes to.
Well, unless,
Unless they tell us.
correct, but I was thinking you can also download that information. There's a way to download that from Constant Contact.
But only if they
Yes.
supply it, right?
So
Right, but you can compare.
I believe that I'm actually very certain, like 95% certain, just based off of having imported Excel sheets into these softwares before, that I can import the Excel sheet as it exists that has people's addresses as well. And then I just have to like select like this cell is name, this cell is address, this cell is email. And then it should upload all of that at once, at least for on our first batch. But then when it comes to new subscribers, people that we don't already have this information for, they will need to supply it.
But,
Okay.
but if when they supply, are we giving them the option to say, give us your address? I mean, does that come off that? Like,
Well,
I'm going to
that's what I
subscribe,
mean,
I'm
like,
going,
Can that be built into our like form where you
Right.
subscribe?
Yeah, that
right.
sounds like that's what we're talking about here.
Okay,
Yeah.
you meant
Right,
your email,
that's what I'm
and if you want to associate it with your address so that you no longer necessarily need to get the printed newsletters. But,
Yeah.
I think that would need to be kind of almost explained. Like,
correct.
because people are not gonna supply their address unless they know like why does.
Yeah.
I
Constant
think
Contact
once
need
we
this?
do, not this mailing, but the next mailing, when we say, well, if you want to subscribe, will you do this? And here's what we're requiring,
Yeah,
maybe break it down a little more as a info type.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think this subscribe widget that's on the website that people can use at any time would be like first name, last name, email, and then address. Address probably wouldn't be required, but then there's a description that explains
would
You'd
not
like-
be required, you said?
correct.
Okay,
That way, because we need name and email.
right.
But address would not be required, and then that way we could explain if you would like your address associated with your email, so that in the future you don't need to receive printed communications.
What
Please
we
supply.
need is a checkbox.
Yeah,
That says
I do
Email-
or I don't, yeah.
email is okay,
Uh-huh,
right?
yeah,
And, and an explanation that if you have to have hard copy, you have to give us your address.
right, exactly.
But hopefully the opt-out is the default,
Right,
Right,
that email. So it's almost like check the box if you want hard copy.
right.
But I think when we were building the township mailing list, correct me if I'm wrong, if we got somebody's name, if we got somebody's last name and email address, we could pretty well tell through the auditor's website what their address was.
Sure,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if
Means
they're the
all
owner
four.
of if they're the owner of the property and if their name comes up in the auditor's website,
Right.
yeah, you could find that out, but not everyone owns their property and not everyone has the same name that is, so it's not a
Mhm.
entire thing.
No, it's not.
yeah,
Um,
it's a good point. Yeah, I like this.
It's a lot of-
But we spent
It's a lot of work, you're right.
cleaning that up
Mhm.
to the
Yeah.
point that it's pretty, the indication of accuracy is that you're not getting many bounce backs.
Right. Now, I like this is a good discussion because we do need to implement that sign up form. So when that is ready to implement, this is what we'll make it with this checkbox of either depending on what the functionality is, either it's default to I'm signing up because I want email, or it is check if you also want printed. We'll see what the
The
functionality is.
quarterly hard
Yeah.
copy.
I think as our township grows, we'll need to kind of reevaluate how we're doing
Certainly,
this.
it
too.
won't be, and nothing about this is permanent. It can
Right.
be changed anytime. Yeah, that's a good point.
because it's especially when we start growing more quickly, it's like to keep on top of all the houses being built,
Yeah.
developments and stuff, when developments start popping up, because we know it's more of an if than a when, right?
Mhm.
Or a when than an if, it's we'll need to figure out if it's still in the most efficient to have our, communications committee keeping the mailing list up to date.
Right.
Cause I know from talking with a couple people in different townships, what they don't manage their own mailing list for
Oh,
printed mail.
okay, interesting.
They have their printers basically do it for them.
Yeah.
And whenever they have like.
I remember you telling me this.
Whenever they have a newsletter that is printed and mailed out, the printer who's doing the printing and mailing will create the list and basically pull it from the auditor's data, do whatever cleanup is necessary, and mail it to all.
Mhm.
households.
But we did that originally going back 2.5 years ago.
Right.
And that's when we got 180 bounce backs
Mm,
from the Board of Elections list, which supposedly was the most accurate list of all addresses in the township.
Board of Elections?
Yeah, I think that's what the source was.
Hmm.
But, and that's when I ended up driving around address
Fixing
to
them.
address, fixing them or seeing if there was actually a house there or it was an address without a mailbox, which a lot of them were just piece of land that had an address.
Well, then maybe we need to understand
So-
like what is the most official, best source to have that information, because it should be, whether that's the, Board of Elections or whether it's the county auditor or what, but.
Well, right now, the list is pretty clean.
yeah,
And the first thing I would want to know, and maybe Mike can help us, is what is the process when there is a new address created in Harlem Township?
right.
What would the source of that be? So
Fire department,
I don't know.
the fire department gets.
Yeah, because they would need to know that's a house, because right now, let me ask this question, the list that you have now, you know which ones are blank? I mean, just land with an address, do you know?
We cleared
Nope,
all
we
those
threw them
out.
out.
You fill
We
them
got
out?
rid of them all. So we could always get one of these lists and do an Excel compare and the null would be probably land.
Right,
Mhm.
I'm just asking if. you
But
still
right
have
now,
it.
the list is still
You
pretty,
could see that changes.
yeah. I don't think I have an original, I have to go look. I may have on my computer. Shouldn't say that, but an original list of before
I
purge.
always would keep.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
and it's pulled from
Yeah.
public sources, because it's pulled from the
Right.
website or the.
But just as a single point, we need to just, as a new address in town is created, we need to get the name and address into our list, and that's not that big a job right now. What is
Right
that?
now,
Not
Right
the-
now,
No, no.
30 a year. And then see if we can get an email to go with that at some point when people let us know they want to be on the list.
Mhm.
So just kind of what is the process we're gonna follow
Mhm.
to keep our list current
Okay,
and clean?
so
Yeah,
an open action then, how,
Yep.
what's the best way to know when new addresses, new mailing addresses are added
With a
in the
mail, yeah, with a
township?
mailbox,
And
yeah,
Yeah.
how do we then get that
right.
Okay.
into our spreadsheet?
Now I'm gonna add another thing to this. We need to update or keep track when a house is sold.
I'd rather just send it to current resident, to be honest.
Okay.
current resident,
And that's fine. I'm just
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I agree.
I think,
Can we do this?
Yeah.
without-
I vote with Molly.
yeah, current resident,
It's
smart,
Resident.
very smart.
Cause yeah, that was the thing that like, I was doing that, trying to update names, I would pull, like, cause the auditor's website does have like a feature where you can pull like properties sold within
Yeah.
the last whatever.
Yeah,
And I did that once, so I pulled a list of like properties transferred within the last 6 months, and I like compared that to our spreadsheet and I updated like names, and I'm just like, this is not value added, like we
Mhm.
could just send it to like current Harlem Township resident, and.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, once I mean, that's fine if we sit and mail it out, but what happens if you want, the person who is doing their email, they gotta tell us who is.
Well, it just tells the address.
Well, they'll
They can tell the
see,
address, but then we have to go back into the person, ask them if they want.
well, they're
Oh,
gonna
like if
get
they-
one of the quarterly mailings, and in it, they'll realize that there's a sign up for emails.
Yeah, well,
That's
we
true.
should make sure to always have that included in our quarterly
Right.
mailings.
Yeah.
My intention for this one is
correct.
we have a little spot, that we typically would have, sign up for the email list. I put a QR code on there to,
Well, I just want to make sure
Scan.
the other person who's living there and moves away, that they
So
also
they unsubscribe. that's what we-
unsubscribe,
sure,
yes.
unsubscribe.
But I want to, by looking at that, we know what address, so we know that we can check to see
Yeah.
if the new person is,
Hey, if the
that's up to them.
Yeah, so the good part
Okay,
about
that's
having
okay.
a service like Constant Contact is that anybody can unsubscribe themselves. So it'll just be up to them. Hey, maybe they want to keep receiving Harlem Township communication. Maybe they
love
want
us.
to keep hearing what's going on. This is great. Very good points, everybody. Thank you. Alrighty, well, our last new item for discussion came out of a request from Lisa Hersey. So she took time to explain to myself and a couple others that are newer in capacity in terms of being involved in committees and departments to explain how the budgeting process works and explain how things need to be forecasted ahead of time so they can be submitted. The county gives appropriations to the township, and there's deadlines for all of that. And what she has asked is that we take time to, before the next trustee meeting, which is in about 2 weeks-ish, to have thought about, and I can, do the tallying about all the different things that we forecast for next year. Because, for example, we signed up for Constant Contact this year. That wasn't, because all this has to be prepped ahead of time. That was not technically in the budget. But there's like general funds and stuff. So there's like always in the budget. But in order for it to be proper, there should be a line item for our stuff. The three things that I could think of that will remain constant would be the use of our software, Constant Contact, postage, and printing.
That's it, yeah.
And I can't think of anything more, so it might be a short discussion, but I didn't
Well, you
want to.
might want to have.
leave anything
if-
out.
If you're gonna, if the communications committee finds itself in a position of hosting a meeting or something, a public meeting, you might want to have general, some general expenses for, just call it stationery or,
Okay.
$500 for miscellaneous expense. And if miscellaneous is problematic, then just call it,
Just call it
station
events.
supplies.
I know that the church now, because of the amount of work it takes them, they're asking for an event fee.
Right.
Oh,
Sure.
interesting.
So they didn't used to?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, if even if you put it in there and you don't use it,
Mm-hmm.
right, you've got, and Lisa has to set up either one line item, a code,
Mm-hmm.
budget,
Mm-hmm.
or which might have all of it lumped into one, where you
Right.
set up
So,
steps.
do you know what that church is charging as their event fee or?
Yeah. Yeah, there certainly could be outliers. We need to rent a
and
space.
some
We
of
need
that
to
we might
provide.
have to just
for-
get
for-
budgeted on exception.
Sure, certainly.
There's
We won't be able to
timing
predict.
that You can
Yeah,
ask for, that, but you're talking about kind of run rate stuff month to month here.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is those three items.
Yeah.
Constant Contact, postage and.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be it. Yeah, just to make sure, because what the goal of this is to make sure that everything is labeled properly, because this is for our residents to have things transparent. So that's what she's just asked us to put our thoughts together on it. That way she can adjust things accordingly for next year. But I can't think of anything else. Constant Contact, you may want to call it like software or something
Probably,
like that.
company car for the committee chairman.
Throw that in there. Need a ride? For my 5-minute drive here. That's great. Okay, well, does anybody have any final thoughts? Anything that was on their mind that we didn't discuss? That's kind of our complete state of the state of what we have in process and working. And we have a few minor
Oh.
to-dos.
Well, I know it surfaced in your last meeting, and then I heard our new trustee talk about, redoing the township website
I heard him talk about that.
without him knowing that it was just redone 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
And if you struggle with it now, well, there wasn't one prior. It was terrible. So I assume, and then that led to you informing him, well, that's what you do,
It is what I do.
the career.
Mhm.
Has there been any more noise about that? I don't think that's personally, I don't think that's our biggest problem,
There's
I would
some
agree with you.
of cleanup work that the website needs, but
Mhm.
I don't,
but that's different.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it needs completely done.
Where I believe it ended off was that Ashley was going to pull the contract of that website company.
Who did it? Yeah.
Because she believes that when she was doing her training, that they had actually built in a
Yeah,
revision.
I think
So
they
that would be
did.
something that we might not even have to pay for as a township because it was already in their contract. So that's something that I should follow up with her about and ask just where we're at with that. I personally agree with you. I think that we should try to educate people on how to use the website before we knock it down and rebuild it. So I think it's probably not our
There's a
biggest.
couple
biggest
clumsy
problem.
things, but for the most part, it's very functional.
And I tried to, before Kendra, left, I worked with her a little bit to move a couple pages around to put them under headers that like made more sense.
Sure.
Cause there were some like duplicates, like you
Mm-hmm.
can get to zoning from 2 different places and it took you to 2 different zoning pages.
Mm,
So it was like, I think we consolidated a lot of that, but there's still more to do and little improvements that could be made.
certainly.
But I don't think it, unless Revise has it completely covered and we wanna start working on a new. But it's like if you change things too much.
Yep.
People don't,
Yeah.
then you just confuse people more because it was like, oh, I was just getting used to the.
I was
other
just
one.
getting used to the other one. Yeah. Yeah. I think what we're doing now, we have a plan in place to put our best foot forward to educate people on how to use it. And then, if we continue to if we start to realize that there's some bumps in it and some quirks that we're even having trouble
Mhm.
explaining, then we can cross that bridge when we
And
come
I
to it.
might suggest that I've seen other government like communities websites do is have like one page where like meeting agendas and minutes for like all committees are, and you can like almost filter, or it's like set so that you can either expand the section of the committee you want the meeting and minutes for, or do like filtering or something of the list to find what you're looking for. So like as far as agendas and minutes, it's all in one place.
Yeah.
Right now, all of ours are on their individual pages, like
Right.
trustee minutes are on a page, zoning minutes are on a page, BZA minutes are on a page, and.
Well,
Yeah.
once
I don't know that
Ashley
that's-
finds out what they owe us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that's maybe almost a single subject meeting with
Yeah,
Ashley. involved,
exactly. With
and-
the thoughts
and
of
with
this
Adam.
committee and Adam.
Liaison to
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, what would be the first things that we will have on our punch list that we would like to work on with our supplier to get restructured
Yeah.
or fixed?
I think that would be great for this group to come together for that and brainstorm, and then we can give her kind of a prioritized list.
But that's the only observation, or what, not the only, but that's kind of the main thing that I see
Mhm.
our website could use as an improvement, is having all minutes and all agendas and all minutes in like one place on one page. So you don't have to go to individual pages to find the different ones.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse my ignorance, but with Facebook, is there a subscription or is there a charge for posting or?
Nope, luckily not. No charge there.
Only if you're trying to do,
Like monetize things.
well, or
or
no,
boost
if
the
you want to do a
posts.
boost.
Right.
through it.
So that's,
Uh,
are you on to that for the budget discussion?
Add some money for Facebook boosts.
That could be a possibility. So if you're not familiar with boosting, fortunately, Facebook and these social media platforms gave away everything for free for a very long time. And then they realized they could monetize their platforms. So now let's say our Facebook page has 500 followers. It used to be that you posted and 490 of those people would likely see it. Nowadays, you're lucky if you show up in 50 to 100 of those people's feeds, right? And they say, oh, you could boost your post. And that will first make sure that as many people as follow you can see it. And then also if you needed to reach anybody outside of your followers as well, you could say, I need to reach everybody in Sunbury, Galena, Westford, if it was, so that is the process of boosting. That's the point of boosting. That's an interesting thought in terms of
Trying
budget.
to get, yeah, it's a good
That,
point, and
that
it might,
gets back to though, what is our philosophy on using Facebook as a push media versus a post media? Because we're using it as a location to post information for
Mm-hmm.
people to come pull from, which I like that model. And if our push model is gonna be constant contact,
Mm-hmm.
to let people, make sure it's getting under their nose. Because well, first of all, Facebook is not the core tool anymore. So
No.
once you start that, you gotta think about doing, Instagram and TikTok are
Certainly.
probably the next two. And so I'm not sure I would like to see us using Facebook as a promotional tool.
Broadcasting
As a
tool.
broadcasting tool. I could easily be wrong, but
There are drawbacks to that because it's not in our control. We call it
yeah,
owned media. So we call our emails are our owned media. Our Facebook, we don't technically own that. It's not totally in our control. So we could never be sure that we are covering all of our bases. Whereas with things like our email and website, we can control that a lot tighter. So I would be in agreement that we could leave something like a budget for boosting off because we wouldn't want to intend to use Facebook that way. But that was
Good
it was a
discussion,
good
though.
idea, yeah.
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 Well, part of it is just kind of getting people in the groove of what they can look, expect to hear from,
Mhm.
what's their go-to.
Yeah.
And if you were dealing with a bunch of 25-year-olds, well, you would be different because they go everywhere.
They go
right?
everywhere.
There isn't one source.
Yeah.
But when you look at our demographics, I think we can get by pretty well with a really active, constant contact tool.
Mm-hmm.
And then keeping the other social media current,
Mm-hmm.
but that's its job, is that it's there for people to go find.
And I guess just a final thought on that. I think a topic that I'll plan to put on our new discussion items for the next meeting is that we'll have, our newsletter will be out, our constant contact will be started up. Then let's think about how we can improve our Facebook presence in terms of the township's official presence. Because we want people to want to check in on that. So I completely understand if just public notices all day, every day is not the most desirable thing for people to check in on.
Yep.
So we could have a discussion about things that become under that umbrella of official township communications, and we can create some sort of like editorial calendar for Facebook that the trustees could approve. So that can be on our next meeting.
But Lindsay, for Lisa, does the committee need to have a budget before we meet next?
No, so thank you. To clarify, what she's asked is that we talk and then I write up something to submit to the trustee meeting agenda. And she's asked everybody like maintenance to do the same. And this process will be a several month long process because she wanted to make sure that we didn't ever like get behind and run out of time. So it sounds like really the goal is that everything is finalized by the new year. But she's like, if we say we started in October, then we won't be behind and we'll have plenty of opportunity for back and forth discussion and then for them to eventually like sign something into.
Ours are pretty simple.
Yeah, I think ours will be pretty simple. Ours will certainly be the simplest out of everybody's, especially when it comes to somebody like maintenance who will have lots and lot in parks with lots of budget. So that's awesome. Okay, well,
Good.
are we adjourning?
Next
I make
meeting
a motion.
is.
You make a motion to adjourn and our next meeting,
And I second that.
our next meeting then would be Tuesday, November 12th at 6:30.
Maybe we'll have more attendance because by then our newsletter will have gone out.
Yes.
About this meeting better.
Yes.
Good.
Very good, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but at least one person. I don't think we did, but.
No. No, I won't do Zoom because I did the first time back in, was it
September, maybe, October, August?
August?
Yeah.
August, and I couldn't